I need a drink of water. Fuck that. I need to drink Arizona. What's good, guys? Welcome back. This time we're going to be breaking down UFC Edmonton. Moreno versus Amir Albazi. And the co-main event is a 5-rounder, 2. Erin Blanchfield versus Namajunas. It's going to be a very good card. But we can't talk about this card without talking about last week's card. So let me put on my glasses. Alright. I went 9-4 last card. Medabik Otabai had a very good fight. His eye got completely blown up because of that tissue damage. Fortunately, he didn't break any bones, but he lost that fight against Rebecki. Very good dog if you had Rebecki. Magomedov, very, very, very good if you played Moneyline. I played Bruno Ferreira. That's fine. He didn't win. It's a very good fight, but I did hit the over 1.5. And one thing's for sure, one thing's for certain. Whitaker lost first round, broke his jaw completely. And then Holloway got knocked out 1 minute and 34 seconds inside the first round. Inside the third round. This was a good card. Considering that this was going to be 14 fight card, we had a 13 fight card. 9-4 isn't bad, but I want to do better. So I put on my thinking glasses on. I put on my smart cap on. And we're going to hit this card, 14 fight card next week. We're going to clean sweep this card. And if anything, we'll go 10-2. We'll have a way positive, more better record. And if you made money this Saturday, that's great. Because a lot of us did. But remember, we got to make it consistent. I got to be consistent. If I did it last Saturday, I got to be able to do it this Saturday. We hit Lock of the Week. We were on a 5-fight Lock of the Week streak. I used to do Lock of the Week so bad that I used to have Lock of the Week as Charles Jourdain over Gene Silva. And I put Charles Jourdain as my Lock of the Week before I knew who Gene Silva was. And that's how you know that I've made a lot of progress since then on my Lock of the Week. And we're going to be making a lot of progress. Shout out to Pick'em. Pick'em is one of my favorite MMA YouTubers, bro. This guy has helped me. He helped me with the Roman Dolidze pick. And he helped me with the Lerone Murphy pick as well. So, go check out his channel if you guys haven't already. I went 9-4. All said and done. Hopefully you guys all made money. Now, let's get into UFC Fight Night. Moreno versus Albazi, which I think is in UFC Edmonton, Canada. It's going to be a very good card. Moreno versus Amir Albazi, Namajunas, Erin Blanchfield, 5 rounds, which is what I like. I love a 5-round co-main event. Derek Lewis versus Jonathan Denise, Kyle Machado, Brent Ribeiro, very good card. Ariane Lipski. Damn, she's hot. All right, so let's get into it. Jack Shore versus Youssef Zalal, very good fight. And shout out to Hernanov. Shout out to Hernanov because if you guys saw the live stream, we were talking about this fight. And we were talking about how this fight is a pretty good fight. And he asked me, who you got, Youssef Zalal or you got Jack Shore? And I told him, wait, they're fighting? I didn't even know they were fighting. And then now I had to do my tape study and had to realize that they're fighting. We have to make sure that we get everything right when we talk about this fight, especially what Joe Anderson Brito did to Jack Shore. So let's get into it. Let's go. Jack Shore is a good grappler. He likes to move forward, constantly looking forward for takedowns. Both his wrestling and striking are similar, just forward pressure, always doing something. Good kicks, solid striking. He has a good, solid striking differential. He averages about 3 takedowns per fight. He's coming off of that disgusting loss to Brito, where he didn't do much, but his shin bone was exposed. Brito lit this dude's legs up bad. Doctor shoved his entire thumb inside that cut, and you could tell that the fight was over. You can also tell that that shin was bad just by looking at how disgusting it was. He's taking on Zalal, but this isn't Zalal, just regular Youssef Zalal. This is Youssef Zalal 2.0 because Zalal was cut from the UFC last year, went on the regional scene, did well, then he came back. He's been great since. He's came back, very, very well-rounded fighter. Hangs out on the outside, then comes in with solid takedowns, averages more than 2 takedowns per fight. He's more of a grappler as of late. He's as of late, his striking style is a point style type of striking. On the outside, low volume but very defensive. He's only hit with 1.73 strikes significant per minute, which is very impressive considering his 6 decisions. He's went to decision 6 times in the UFC, and one of them with Ilia Topuria, who just knocked out Max Holloway Saturday. That's an incredible stat. He's coming off of that Jarno Arons win, early leg kicks, good takedowns, and then bang, sub on the ground. Youssef is an animal, a different animal, since he's re-signed with the UFC. Youssef Zalal 2.0 is the new Youssef Zalal. After I heard about this fight, I was like, wow, this is a great fight. So, my early prediction is going to be Youssef Zalal. We see majority topologies on Youssef Zalal as well. If you want to go Youssef Zalal by submission or on points, that's a good play, and it's not bad at all. Jack Shore tends to do not that good at defending leg kicks. He's a plus 190 slight underdog versus the minus 230 Youssef Zalal 2.0. 28 years old versus 29, and that loss to Ilia Topuria is aging pretty well, considering Ilia Topuria has knocked out almost everybody he's went up against, other than Josh Emmett and a couple of other guys, but Youssef Zalal being one of them. So Youssef Zalal has shown that he can hang with the best. Not only he's shown that he could get cut from the UFC and then come back and still win. Very, very good. This is very, very good for him. So give me Youssef Zalal to win this fight by 29-28, unanimous decision. Maybe sneaking a submission in there. If not, second round, third round. It's going to be a very good fight. Jack Shore just needs to show a little bit more output. Sometimes his wrestling is not, like, sometimes he can't get to the ground. He's forced to strike with you, and he's forced to make uncomfortable decisions. So give me Youssef Zalal to win this fight by unanimous decision, 29-28, after a hard-fought battle. 15-minute battle. Jamey-Lyn Horth versus Ivana Petrović. Jamey-Lyn Horth versus Ivana Petrović is going to be a good fight. Jamie is a solid striker. She's big as shit. Good accuracy, good power, mixes it up. Good fight IQ as well. Follows a game plan, good takedown defense, good getup. She's coming off of that loss to Veronica Hardy, where she was dropped multiple times and she needed to use her size advantage for success. But she didn't have that much success in that fight. Her fight IQ is amazing. She was in her corner talking to her coaches, very self-aware of what was happening, and she knew what she was doing was wrong, but she just didn't have the right tools to get it all together. She didn't have success in that fight, but was very aware that she was losing. She's taking on Ivana Petrović. Ivana Petrović, she's a well-rounded fighter. She's got busy striking, mostly a grappler. Wrestling is solid. Pressure is good. Good BJJ. She will work you to the cage, drag you to the ground, and quickly look for subs. She's pretty early in her MMA career, but she's quickly evolving. She's coming off of a finish win over Na Liang, where she was taken down. She was weathered an early storm. Then she got it done when Liang got tired. Jamey-Lyn Horth is a 2-1 favorite at a minus 180 after a year away and her most recent fight being a loss. It's crazy that she's a 2-1 favorite, but she's big. She was dropped multiple times in her last fight. If Ivana can wrestle, she can win this fight. I don't think she gets her down because sometimes she struggles to get her opponent down. Her opponent is huge in this case. You need a good double leg, not just drag to the cage and drag her down by force. Jamie's going to be the pick, but it's low confidence. So with all this being said, Jamey-Lyn Horth is huge. She is 5'7" for the division that she fights in, which is flyweight, versus a 5'8" girl who's Ivana Petrović. I think in the cage, Jamey-Lyn Horth is going to look a lot bigger. She's going to look a lot more filled out. She's minus 200 on Tapology, plus 165 for Ivana Petrović, 66-inch reach for Jamie, and then 70-inch reach for Ivana. Ivana could be the longer fighter. She could manage her distance, manage her range, but she's going to want to take this fight to the ground. I think if you're striking with a girl like Jamey-Lyn Horth, it might not look that good, but we saw Veronica Hardy have a lot of success, so if Ivana has a very good game plan, I like her as an underdog. But for right now, I'm going to pick Jamey-Lyn Horth just because of her size and because we're also in Canada. I know a lot of Canadians sometimes tend to not have the best performances, especially in their hometown. But with all that being said, give me a low confidence pick of Jamey-Lyn Horth to be the bigger fighter, have way better takedown defense, and solidify a win after 15-minute hard-fought battle. I think it should be 29-28 unanimous decision. We know Tapology's on all over Petrović. If you want to go Petrović, that's fine. Maybe by Wednesday I'll go Ivana Petrović. I just got to do a little bit more study. After watching, Lyn Horth, her last loss against Veronica Hardy, getting dropped multiple times, and the fact that she hasn't been active. Her last fight was almost a year ago, 10 months ago, and she lost that fight by split decision, which arguably you could say that probably wasn't even close to being a split decision. But Ivana Petrović has very good takedown defense somewhat, and she has good takedowns as well. Her last one was 5 months ago by arm triangle. She's a little bit more active, so the ring rust is going to be there for Jamey-Lyn Horth. But give me Jamey-Lyn Horth to win this fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. Very low confidence pick. I might pick flip to Ivana Petrović later in the week. We'll see though. Chad Ellinger versus Cody Gibson. Chad Ellinger is that guy that I gotta see this guy fight once a year. or at least multiple times per year. Plus 145 for Chad Ellinger, minus 175 for Cody Gibson. Interesting matchup, a bit funny. It's a bit funny too, a bit of a funny matchup. Chad is a powerful striker, solid BJJ. If he gets us to the ground, he sets a good pace, hits incredibly hard. Takedown defense is okay, but it has failed him multiple times in the past. If he gets taken down, he's got good sweeps, solid get-up game. If he gets on top, that's when he tees off, and that's his bread and butter. He has 5 fights in the UFC, but he has given up 14 takedowns, including 4 in his last fight against Charalampos Grigorio. But he dominated that fight in the striking department. On Cody Gibson's side, he's a solid striker, very long, uses his length to set up strikes, defend takedowns. He's primarily a striker. If you take him down, you can have success. He's coming off of that submission win over Brian Kelleher, who is no longer in the UFC, which was his first UFC win in 10 years. And how does the UFC reward him with that first win in the first 10 years? All right, here's 2 guys both coming off a win finally. Why don't you guys fight each other? So Cody Gibson fought Brian Kelleher. Cody being a slight favorite makes sense. Chad is a dog, but he was taken down 4 times and was still able to put out a win. I'm going to pick Cody, but it might be a plus 3.5 on Chad. He can win round 1. It's going to be a very good fight. We also have to mention how Chad Ellinger looked a little sketchy against Charalampos Grigorio, but he did win that fight, and in the striking department, he was very dominant. He did get taken down, and we know that Charalampos Grigorio is not as good as we thought he was. As at one point, this guy was my lock of the week, Charalampos Grigorio, and you know that was a bad time because ever since then, I've been doing a lot better. Cody Gibson, the Renegade, has a good nickname, but the fact that this guy had 2 losses to Miles John and then Brad Katona, and then he also lost to Ray Borg in Eagle FC 2 years and 8 months ago, and then his most recent wins was to Francisco Rivera and then Brian Kelleher. It shows that maybe he's not as good as we all think he is. This is one of those fights where it's going to be crazy. I can't imagine Cody Gibson being a minus 200 favorite. It's crazy that he's a minus 175. If we go to Tapology, majority Tapology is on Cody Gibson's side to win this fight by decision. But if you think there's going to be a finish shot, you could go submission for Cody Gibson. I recommend don't bet this fight. It's a 1-800-GAMBLER type of fight. But give me Cody Gibson to win this fight by unanimous decision, 29-28. And maybe even 30-27, but 29-28 on other judges' scorecards. Chad Ellinger is not as good as I thought he was either, considering he lost. But his win over Charalampos Grigorio is pretty good. So give me Cody Gibson to win this fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. Should be a good fight. Series City versus Garrett Armfield. This is a good fight as well. City is a tall, long striker who can also grapple. Powerful guy who, despite being so tall and long, he doesn't use his reach that well at all. He likes to play and he likes to plot forward, keeps jab in your face, throws big if he sees an opening. He can be taken down. He can get his legs chopped up every now and then. But when he is taken down, he's got solid enough BJJ off his back to pull something off or to stay defensively sound. He is shockingly chinny, though. Shockingly. Very shockingly chinny. He's coming off of that close loss to Roman Tavares where he had that striking volume, but he was dropped. And now he's taking on Garrett Armfield. Garrett Armfield is a technical striker who doubles up his jab really well and switches stances. He's always working forward, but he stays controlled and he doesn't take a lot of risk. He does a good job kicking the legs before coming up top, solid takedown, before coming on top. So he does work the legs and then he works upstairs. But if he ends up on top, he has great ground and pound. And he's coming off that crazy loss where he dropped Brady Hastings and was winning, but then got bullied to the ground and submitted. He always tries to meme himself on Twitter. He says sorry way too much after losing on Twitter. And City gets dropped, and he has a questionable chin. He could get dropped here, but I'm going to pick City because I don't know if Armfield can take that volume. This will be a fun fight. There are 14 fights on this card, and you do not need to bet this one. That's what I wrote in my notes. But I know a lot of you guys are going to want to bet this fight, so I recommend take money line on either side. Garrett Armfield is a plus 140 underdog, minus 165 for City. Majority Tapology is going to go City. If there's going to be a knockout side, it could be on City, but we know that he did get dropped in his last fight against Roman Tavares. It was a very close fight, and in my opinion, I don't know how you scored that fight. You can rewatch it. I gave that fight to City, but you know with the damage trumping all, triumphing all, no problem with Roman Tavares winning that fight. City has made fights a lot more competitive and a lot more closer than Garrett Armfield, And Garrett Armfield was put away in his last fight by submission, but he did drop Brady Houston. He could drop City, but I think City's going to be too clean, too quick, and too good for him. City's going to be the pick by unanimous decision, 29-28, 30-27, and 29-28. But we know a guy like Garrett Armfield has very good takedowns, and his bread and butter is when he's in his fluidity state and when he's in his flow state. When you see Garrett Armfield in his flow state, he looks amazing, like in his win against Brad Katoni, he looked really good, and his win against Kazama, KO straight right. He does have that power. We'll see if he drops City, but I'm going to go City because it's going to be too technical, too much volume, and it might be too much for a guy like Garrett Armfield. It's going to be a very good fight, but with all that being said, give me City to win this fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. Very good fight, very good fight. Alexander Romanov versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Oh my God! Every time I see this Alexander Romanov guy, it reminds me of what is this guy gonna look on the scales? Is this guy gonna look a little tubby? Like, is he gonna look like Pillsbury Doughboy? Or is he gonna look like a little bit decent? Romanov is two different versions. The version of 2022 version was a beast. Then the 2024 version. The guy is a quitter and he's soft. A few years ago, he was massive, huge speed and power, takedowns, and finishes you. He def has quit in him. He has a quit button, and he lost all of his aura. He still is a high-level wrestler who can dominate with his takedowns and control. He's coming off of that loss to Jailton Almeida. He's taking on Rodrigo Nascimento, a grappler at heart with solid submissions who occasionally gets sucked into a firefight. His path to victory is usually grappling, and that's initiated by marching forward with big punches. Gets you to the cage, drags you to the ground. He averages 1 takedown per fight, solid 76% takedown defense, which will be tested in this matchup. And he's coming off of that KO loss to Derek Lewis. On paper, Rodrigo is perfect guy to beat Alexander. On paper, Rodrigo is the perfect guy to beat Alexander. Good striking. Alexander has good striking, good takedown defense. In theory, Roman probably gasses, but you never know in the fight game. I still believe in Roman. He's been competing in grappling competitions outside the UFC, and that's pretty good. All he needs is 1 takedown per round. The pick is going to be Romanov. Hopefully, he lost the weight because this guy's weigh-ins are insane. I hope to see that this guy's in better shape because every time we see this guy, it's like, okay, we got to wait until Friday to see if this guy's going to win the fight or not. Because if he shows up a little heavy, if he shows up without the six-pack or without a little bit of muscles, you know that this guy's going to look a little sketchy on Saturday. Rodrigo Nascimento is the slight favorite at a -135, plus 110 for Alexander Romanov. 33 years old to 31. Majority Tapology is going to go Romanov. If you have Nascimento, then you have him because you believe in him. He has the 80-inch reach. He could be the longer fighter, and he's definitely probably going to win this fight if it stays 15 minutes on the feet. I think Romanov just needs 1 takedown, and he should be good. His bread and butter is his takedown game. We've seen him have very good performances against Balagoy. And also, Giles Almeida, he didn't look that good because he lost by submission rear naked choke. But we all expected that. Alexander Volkov, he also lost to, and we didn't expect him to lose there, but he didn't look as good in the weigh-ins as well. Marcin Tybura, he also lost, and then his last one in one of his last 5 being Chase Sherman by submission. I'm going to go Alexander Romanov to win this fight by unanimous decision, and if not, he can maybe sink in a submission. We know sometimes his ground and pound is there, but is he going to be able to finish a guy like Rodrigo Nascimento? Rodrigo Nascimento has gotten finished before by Derek Lewis, and he has a no contest against Alan Budoit. But we know Rodrigo Nascimento is tough. Give me Alexander Romanov to win this fight by unanimous decision after mixing in 1 takedown per round. Maybe he gasses. We have to see his gas tank. This is another 1-800-GAMBLER type of fight. But if I got to pick, let me sprinkle the dog and give me Alexander Romanov, King Kong, to beat Rodrigo Nascimento by unanimous decision. Moldova versus Brazil. It's going to be a good fight. That fight might be a little funny to watch, too. Charles Jourdain versus Victor Henry. Damn, bro. Charles Jourdain is that guy who I thought was going to be a guy who was going to crack the top 5. I thought this guy was going to crack the top 5. I don't know why. I had very high hopes for Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain versus Victor Henry. Homeless Victor Henry. Fun. Charles Jourdain is a fun, come-forward striker. Pretty fast, great timing, willing to take chances with spinning attacks, flying attacks. Not the most technical fighter, but he's one of the most exciting fighters. He's an absolute dog who will keep things ugly and in our face. He's coming off of that second-round KO loss to Gene Silva where he could not hang at all with Gene Silva. The power, the technique. And who remembers when I had Lock of the Week as Charles Jourdain against Gene Silva? That was one of my worst Lock of the Weeks I've ever had. before. That was before I knew who Gene Silva was, though. That's crazy, though, looking back at it. He's taking on Victor Henry, fun come-forward striker with a wide variety of attacks. He likes to plot forward, uses his head movement, avoid punches, and throws everything at range. He will throw head kicks in the pocket, he'll throw elbows, clinch leads, a ton of variety, mixes it all together. He's coming off of that KO win over Rani Yahya, where he was taken down early, weathered the storm, showcased the cardio, and sorry to the Canadians, but Charles Jourdain is trash. There was a moment where he tricked me into thinking that he was good, and he had a good win streak, and he put a couple of good wins together, and he had that Sparta kick, and he had a lot of hype on him. But he's not good. He's just fun as hell, and he loses to the top echelon of the division. He has good technique, decent cardio. I hate that Henry's 37 years old. Still looks good, but if you want to go Victor Henry, he could definitely win. He has a very clear path to victory. Maybe he gets taken down, though. Maybe Charles Jourdain gets taken down. Maybe, because we know his takedown defense is not the best. Charles Jourdain's going to be the pick. But if you see, Tapology already is... A lot of them are on Victor Henry to win this fight by decision. Over 2.5 is going to be perfect for this fight. Minus 115 for Charles Jourdain. Minus 105 for Victor Henry. Him being 37 years old in the bantamweight division is a little bit of a red flag. 28 years old for Charles Jourdain. But Charles Jourdain is a little bit of on a skid. Sheen Woodson, split decision loss. Gene Silva, KO, uppercut. And then if he loses this fight, who knows? What if they decide to cut him from the UFC? I hope not. Maybe they do. Maybe the UFC just doesn't like him. But Victor Henry could definitely win this fight if he chooses to wrestle. And he does have that power. He did KO Rani Yahya. We know that he went to no contest with Javid Basharat. And that was funny. Because he got kicked in the nutcracker. But give me Charles Jourdain to win this fight by 29-28 unanimous decision after losing the first round by getting grappled the entire round. Gonna be a very good fight. Now we get to the ladies. One of the most beautiful ladies in the entire card. Ariane Lipski versus Jasmine Javicius. Ariane Lipski is no longer Ariane Lipski. She's now Dos Santos. She got married. So shout out to that guy. That guy is a lucky guy. He probably goes to sleep happy at night. Ariane Lipski versus Jasudavicius. Ariane Lipski or Dos Santos, however you want to call her. If you're a simp for wrestlers, then you love Jazzy. Jazzy is a good wrestler, but let's start with Ariane. She got married, which has nothing to do with fighting, but she got married. You know, I shed a little tear after hearing that. She's a decent striker, but her grappling is better offensively. If she gets taken down... if she gets the takedown, she has great control on top. She presses forward, good technique. But if she gets taken down, off her back, she struggles, and she has been finished there in the past before. Her recent evolution as a fighter has been incredible. Her last 4 fights, she defended a combined 22 takedowns and went 4 for 4 on her own offensive takedowns. Her new takedown defense just recently failed her in her last fight against Corinne Silva. But Ariane has been getting better. She's taking on Jasmine, a solid wrestler who comes forward, pushes the pace. She'll throw the strikes and then pressure you against the cage, then get a takedown. She has a good clinch game, good knees in the clinch, good elbows. Accomplished wrestler long before her MMA career. She got good hips, so if she has a bad shot or if she shoots and she scrambles, most of the time she scrambles and ends up on top. She's coming off of that dominant win over Fatima Klein, where she was an underdog going into that fight when this got announced. She was an underdog going into that fight against Fatima Klein. When this fight got announced, a lot of people were on Ariane. But I don't care how much she trains, her wrestling, Jasudavicius' wrestling is on a whole different level than her other matchups. Corinne Silva just out-wrestled her, and Jasmine is a way better wrestler than Corinne Silva. Confident she gets the win, but she is a minus 180. Her most recent loss to being Corinne Silva. I think if we do MMA math, we know MMA math doesn't always work, but Jasudavicius is a way better wrestler than Corinne Silva, and Corinne Silva wrestled Ariane Lipski. Ariane Lipski seems like, I don't know where she is in her career, where she wants to go in her career, or what she wants to accomplish in her career, but we know a girl like Jasudavicius, we know what we're going to get with her. And we know that in her most recent loss to Tracy Cortez, she still looked pretty good in that fight, and then Tracy Cortez went on to fight Rose Namajunas, who we're going to talk about later. But Ariane Lipski is a girl who, like, she's 30 years old. She just got married. We don't know where she is in her career. She's 5'6", 67-inch reach. Versus a girl who is a very good wrestler. Considering that she got wrestled in the last fight, you can make the assumption that Jasudavicius is a good, moderate 205 favorite, and the price tag fits. But at a minus 180, do we really want to take Jasudavicius? Maybe if we do double chance, maybe Jasmine by sub or on points, you get a little bit more juice. But I'm going to take Jasudavicius at a minus 180, maybe minus 205 right now at what you're looking at to win this fight by unanimous decision, 29-28, after losing probably the second round. It's going to be a close fight, but I even think Jasmine can win a 30-27 clear cut, winning every single round by grappling. We know that against Tracy Cortez, she didn't look that good, but she still looked pretty decent, and that's her one loss in her last 5 wins. So we know that she's putting together a pretty good win streak compared to Ariane Lipski. Or Dos Santos, however you want to say it. Give me Jasudavicius to win this fight by 29-28 after losing the second round. Should be a very good fight, though. I'm glad we get to see a Canadian win. Aiemann Zahabi versus Pedro Munhoz. Faris Zahabi is Aiemann Zahabi's brother, who coached GSP and also coached Rob Font for a victory over Kyler Phillips. So I'm just finding out about Faris Zahabi. But when I find out about Faris Zahabi, you know that this guy's a great coach. I didn't even know he coached GSP, and now I'm just figuring out that he is part of a lot of big upsets. This guy got a very good upset with Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips was a minus 400, 500, and Rob Font worked him. Kyler Phillips got tired, so we know Faris Zahabi is the brains of the team. So this is what I wrote: Ariel Helwani or Aiemann Zahabi, whoever you want to call him. His brother Faris Zahabi is the brains. He worked with GSP before. Most recently, he revitalized his entire... Okay, most recently, Faris Zahabi revitalized Rob Font's career. And Aiemann Zahabi has a great coach. Style-wise, Aiemann Zahabi's pretty well-rounded, more of a striker than anything. He can be low volume at times, but he does have big, solid power, good takedown defense at a 79%, solid fight IQ. He's coming off of that win over Javid Basharat, who we saw Faid Basharat have success last Saturday, where Javid Basharat, he showcased his toughness. Aiemann Zahabi showcased his toughness against Javid Basharat and gave him his first loss. That fight, he won that fight because he was spamming right hands. He was just spamming right hands on the outside. His coaches are great, but his coaches were doing a lot of like, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah. So maybe he won that fight because of a lot of the noise of the coaches were making. But I think Aiemann Zahabi is in a very good position to win this fight. He faces off against Pedro Munhoz. He's taking on Pedro Munhoz, a volume striker, non-stop pace, incredible leg kicks, dangerous BJJ, but doesn't go for takedowns. Negative striking differential, which is crazy because in most of Pedro Munhoz's fights, it looks like he's not getting hit at all. He lands at a 5.32 significant strikes per minute and is still being hit with 6.23 strikes per minute. He's coming off of that second loss in a row, this time to Kyler Phillips, where Kyler Phillips looked good. A lot of people don't think Aiemann won his last fight, but he has great fight IQ with a high fight IQ corner. If he's busy, more pressure, he can win, but his low output could be a little bit of his own demise. We saw Kyler's insane cardio showcase against Pedro Munhoz, but looked bad against Font. Cardio is easy when you're fighting at a controlled pace. They even gave Pedro Munhoz the first round against Sugar. Aiemann is a point fighter. If he sits on his right hand like he did against Javid, he probably gets outworked. Over 2.5 is free money. We know Pedro Munhoz is on a skid, and this is a little bad for Pedro Munhoz because if he loses another one, he'll be on a 3-fight skid. Minus 135 for Pedro Munhoz. Aiemann Zahabi is a plus 110. A lot of people expect Pedro Munhoz to outwork and outstrike and outvolume Aiemann Zahabi. Aiemann Zahabi has low volume output, but he does have the longer reach, and he's taller by a lot. I think he's going to look really good, and I think he can put up a similar performance like Kyler Phillips. We know Kyler Phillips had a lot of cardio in that fight and showed a lot of success in every single round. He showed a lot of speed, a lot of physical athleticism, but we know Aiemann Zahabi's not really known for that volume output. I still think this is going to be a very close fight. All of Pedro Munhoz's fights are close. Against Marlon Vera, close. Chris Gutierrez, close. I don't even like all of his fights are really close. Against Dominic Cruz, very close fight, and we know that this fight could go to split decision. I'm going to be taking Aiemann Zahabi at a plus 110 from Canada to win this fight. I think it's a favorable matchup for him, but we know if Munhoz starts to work, he starts to land his leg kicks, he can win this fight by unanimous decision. I'm going to be taking Aiemann Zahabi to win this fight by 29-28 after losing the first round. We know Pedro Munhoz tends to win the first round. He won it against Sugar. Sometimes he won a round off of O'Malley, and then he also arguably could have won a round off of Kyler Phillips. In my opinion, I thought it was 30-27, but however you want to score it, it was still a close fight either way. We know he has a negative striking differential, so Aiemann Zahabi should be more defensively sound and should be able to win this fight comfortably after losing the first round and winning the second and third. Give me Aiemann Zahabi to win that fight. Mike Malott versus Trevin Giles. Mike Malott versus Trevin Giles. Mike Malott doesn't have a specific background. He's a true MMA fighter, well-rounded, loose striking style. Kickboxing is good technical, sound, manages range really well, strikes, grapples, and wrestles. 5 fights under the UFC banner, 2 knockdowns, and 1 KO and 3 submission wins. Most recently, he lost to Neil Magny, who was taking on Carlos Prates later. He's going to go die over there. This year, he was dominating Neil Magny, but with 30 seconds left, he quit because things weren't going his way, and the littlest amount of adversity, he folded. He has a quit button, we all know. He's taking on Trevin Giles, who is an athletic beast, a great jab. At one point, a lot of the UFC commentators were saying that this guy had the best jab in the UFC. Pretty light on his feet. He'll throw a combo, then step out of range, and then reset. Regardless of stats, his wrestling offense isn't really good, but he does have great takedown defense at a 71%, but it's because of his raw athleticism. He's coming off of that KO loss to Carlos Prates, where he threw solid. That actually scared the fuck out of me. Where he threw solid, but then he got smoked. If you're still mad at Malott, it makes sense. This is a discount for Mike Malott, though. It's great odds. He should be faster, stronger, and a better wrestler, but remember, he can fold at any minute. So, in my opinion, I think Mike Malott would have been a way bigger... Well, obviously, he would have been a way bigger favorite if he beat Neil Magny. But this could be a good loss. This could be a very good loss for Mike Malott. Maybe Mike Malott needed that loss to Neil Magny, or else he would have lost in more devastating fashion later in his career. There's a good little reset, and Mike Malott at a discount at a minus 270 is going to be perfect because we know Mike Malott tends to sometimes fold at the littlest amount of adversity. The fact that you're losing to Neil Magny means that you have some serious issues, some really, really serious issues. But we know a guy like Trevin Giles is nowhere near the pinnacle of Mike Malott's ceiling. We know Trevin Giles has lost to submission by Gabriel Bonfim, lost to Carlos Prates by KO. It's crazy how many people Carlos Prates is finishing in his path. This guy is like collecting all the infinity stones with his fist. And I think Canada's going to be excited to see Mike Malott. We know that he got fraud checked by Neil Magny, but make what you want. He has 73-inch reach. He's 6'1". He's going to be the taller fighter, but his reach is going to be disparate by 1 inch. I think Mike Malott should be able to win this fight, and maybe he should be able to win this fight by submission or on points. I'm going to take the double chance. It should, squeak it out, get a little bit more juice, because why would we fit a 2-1, 3-1 on a guy who got fraud checked by Neil Magny? Make what you want. I recommend take double chance. Mike Malott by submission or on points, or Mike Malott by KO or on points. We know Trevin Giles has been KO'd, but a guy like Carlos Prates, who has vicious power, who not a lot of people can replicate what Carlos Prates does. Michael Morales was also able to KO him with a right counter, and we know that this guy tends to get knocked out. He's done. Once he gets hurt, he's probably done. So give me Mike Malott to win this fight by, I'm going to go by submission or on points. If you want to take the double chance, you could also do KO or on points. But give me Mike Malott specifically to win this fight by submission or on points. Submission second round. If he doesn't get it, then give me 29-28 Mike Malott. We know Mike Malott makes fights a little bit closer than they need to be. Marc-André Barriel versus Dustin Stoltzfus. This is a good fight as well. Pretty good fight. I think Dustin Stoltzfus got hurt really bad. He's turning around pretty quick over that loss to Bruno Ferreira. That was a really, really bad loss. We saw Bruno Ferreira lose against Abus Magomedov, which is a good fight. Marc-André, a well-rounded fighter, solid kickboxing, good takedowns, good jiu-jitsu, typically looking to press you forward and wear you down on your feet. He has impressive striking. He has impressive striking volume at almost 6 significant strikes landed per minute, but he hits around 5 significant strikes per minute. He's coming off of that KO loss to Joe Pyfer, taking on Dustin. Busy striker, very good power, BJJ, black belt, and has been wrestling more as of late. 11 takedowns in his last 5 fights. He likes to hang out, strike inside the pocket. Not the best idea considering his chin is a little lackluster. And his record is okay. Excuse me, but he does get finished. But those losses are to quality opponents. He beats the people who he is supposed to be and who is expected to beat. If you look at Canadians on this card, this is a good matchup for Marc-André Barriault. And he should be able to weather the storm and outstrike Dustin. Over 2.5 is great. Dustin is dangerous. Mark was just KO'd by Joe Pyfer, but Joe Pyfer's a beast who just recently lost to Jack Hermanson, but Joe Pyfer is a beast, and there's no shame in losing to Joe Pyfer by KO. He hits so hard, so give me Marc-André to win this fight by decision. I don't like how Dustin Stolfus is turning around after 4 months. Make what you want with that information, but that's a little sketchy. Very, very sketchy in my opinion. Marc-André Barriault is 16-8-0. He just lost to Chris Curtis by split decision, but then he lost to Joe Pyfer. And this could be a position where he loses 3 in a row. And considering he's a minus 205 favorite, considering he lost 2 in a row, this is one of those sketchy fights as well. I think the over 2.5 is the best play for this fight. 74-inch reach for Marc-André Barriault, 75 for Dustin. I don't think the reach is going to matter that much because Marc-André is a very good kickboxer. Give me Marc-André Barriault to win this fight by KO. Give me him to win by KO in the 2nd or 3rd round. If it's not late 3rd round, then he's going to win by decision. But I'm going to go by late 3rd round KO or by 29-28, 30-27, and 29-28 unanimous decision. I think Marc-André Barriault should be able to win, and we need some people to win for Canada. Come on. Let's have a good night for Canada. Let's go, Marc-André Barriault. Let's go. Let's go. Should be a good fight. Caio Machado versus Brenson Ribeiro. New gen of heavyweight. Not the cleanest striker. Caio Machado's the new gen. He's the new gen of heavyweight. Not the cleanest striker. He's not the biggest as well. Around 250. Has great volume. Good footwork. Great counters. Great jabs. Good clinch work. Good takedowns. Underrated BJJ. He's coming off of that decision loss to Dontel Mays where he had decent speed and movement. He's taking on Brenson Ribeiro, an offensive striker with solid grappling. He likes to move forward, bomb away, but he is very hittable. His takedowns are mediocre, but if the fight ends up on the ground, he hunts for submissions. Ribeiro is well-rounded, very good offense. He does have a quit button. He's coming off of that loss to Magomed Gudshulov where he panic wrestled and he just dove at legs. I think Caio should win this fight. He's the cleaner fighter. He's more buttoned up and has more ways to win. Maybe Brenson comes out wild, but Caio's going to be the pick. He's going to be a very sloppy, hard, powerful striker versus, I don't want to say technician, but a little bit of a more well-rounded new-gen heavyweight. 251 versus 205 at his most recent. We know that Caio Machado, Bigfoot, is going to be the taller fighter at 6'4" versus 6'3". 78-inch reach for Caio Machado, 81-inch reach for Brenson Ribeiro. If you want to go Brenson Ribeiro to win this fight by KO. He won against Bruno Lopez by KO in the Contender Series, won his last fight by KO before that, and prior to that, he won by KO. So this guy is known to win by KO. He has that vicious power, but he tends to get hit a little too much. On the other side, Caio Machado won his Dana White Contender Series, but lost his UFC debut against Mick Parkin, who is a very good heavyweight, and then he lost to Dontel Mays. We could be in a position where we see Caio Machado lose 3 in a row. Majority Tapology has Brenson Ribeiro to win this fight by KO. And I think that's a little crazy because Tapology tends to get most of their picks right. And that I shouldn't have looked at that because that tends to persuade me. But early pick, I'm going to go Caio Machado, Bigfoot, to win this fight by unanimous decision. I think Caio Machado is really clean. I think he's really good at getting takedowns. And I think if he's able to survive the storm, survive the first round against Brenson Ribeiro, he should be able to win this fight comfortably. But we know a guy like Brenson Ribeiro has that power where he could just walk in, knock him out, and it doesn't even matter. We saw with Ilia Topuria, it doesn't matter how much tape study you do. He just needs to find that chin. So a guy like Brenson Ribeiro, I don't want to compare them, but a guy like Brenson Ribeiro is in the same position where he just needs to KO you. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if he lost the first or second round. If he KOs you, he wins the fight. And that's that. I'm going to go Caio Machado, very low confidence pick, but I think he should be the quicker fighter, overall better fighter, and I think if he's able to wrestle, he should be able to win this fight. A lot of Tapology favors that this fight doesn't go the distance. If you want to go that this fight doesn't go the distance, it's probably the best prop, and I think Caio Machado is a very low confidence pick, 1-800 gambler type of fight. If you want to bet that, Sprinkle either side, but at your own risk. Give me Kyle Machado to win that fight. Derek Lewis versus Jonathan Denise. Are they trying to kill Derek Lewis or what? Dude. Are they actually trying to kill Derek Lewis or what, bro? Because what the fuck is going on? Derek Lewis versus Jonathan Denise. 28-12-0 for Derek Lewis. Has the record for the most knockouts in the entire UFC career. Versus Jonathan Denise, who's 8-0, undefeated prospect. Who went to decision, which was pretty crazy, against Carl Williams. It was a good fight. Very good fight. It showed that he can win by decision as well. He doesn't always have to win by knockout. And his most impressive win being Austin Lane after he got controlled in the first round and then won by knockout. We know Robelis of Spain, the fucking fraud, lost. I need more juice, bro. I need more juice. Give me the juice. Give me the juice, bro. I'm not going to do a 40-minute video and not drink juice, of course. What does this Snapple fact say? It says, Duck Duck Goose is called Duck Duck Gray Duck in Minnesota. Did you guys know that? Duck Duck Goose is called Duck Duck Gray. Duck Duck Gray Duck in Minnesota. I didn't know that. You learn something new every day. Snapple's good. Let me know your favorite Snapple. Let me know your favorite fucking Snapple. I like peach. Alright. Striker's Delight. But this can be a staring contest. Might be because Derek Lewis is the lowest volume striker in heavyweight history, in the heavyweight division. As long as Denise isn't afraid of what comes back his way and they don't stare at each other, someone's going to get knocked out. Derek Lewis, KO King, has more KO wins than anyone else in UFC history. But as we know by now, that's all he has. He's not a submission specialist. He rarely shoots a takedown unless you're tied to a Vasa. And he has a very low volume output at 2.8 significant strikes per minute. You never see Derek Lewis move forward and dominate for 15 minutes. He's either losing, gets a big KO, or it's a very slow fight, gets a big KO, or the fight barely gets started and he gets dominated. We all like Derek Lewis, and we know by now he has some of the hardest punching power in the entire heavyweight division. He's taking on Jonathan Denise, who is a good striker, complete technique, and also a bunch of power. He throws good in combos, good defense, great speed for his size. He was a pro kickboxer before moving over to MMA. His takedown defense is okay but untested. He's coming off of that decision win over Carl Williams where he landed big early, got taken down. This is a 50-50 fight. Excuse me. Whoever lands that big first shot is probably going to win this fight. Denise is a better striker. I think he lands first, but one big punch from Lewis and you're dead. The under is going to be great, but remember, this fight could be a staring contest. If you want to go that this fight doesn't go the distance, it's probably going to be juice, but you could do that, or you could do the under 2.5. In my opinion, be careful with this fight because we could get a 15-minute hard just staring contest, and both of these guys are looking at each other. Minus 170 favor for Jonathan Denise, plus 140 for Derek Lewis. But we know Derek Lewis as an underdog just cashes. Against, my favorite win of Derek Lewis was against Chris... Razor Blades Curtis. That was a crazy win. He just uppercutted him and killed him. Curtis Blades, he just uppercutted him and killed him, and that was fun. But maybe not for Curtis Blades. You can see when Tapology has this entire thing brown on both sides, this fight is probably not going the distance. Majority Tapology is going to go Derek Lewis by KO, which is actually very impressive. If you want to go Derek Lewis by KO, fuck it. Let's go Derek Lewis by KO. That's a good prop. Somebody's going to get knocked the fuck out of this fight. This is why I love MMA. Give me Jonathan Denise to win this fight by KO. Second round KO. You know me, I like to play over 1.5s a lot. If I see the over 1.5, I'm going to fucking jump on it. I love the over 1.5. It's my favorite prop in all of UFC gambling or all of MMA gambling. Give me Jonathan Denise to win this fight. I don't recommend taking the over 1.5 though because somebody could get knocked out in the first round. You could take first round knockout by Derek Lewis. You could take first round knockout by Jonathan Denise. But give me Jonathan Denise to win this fight by KO in the second round after a crazy first round. And I'm just a fan. Give me Jonathan Denise to win that fight by KO second round. That's going to be a banger. Bro, I'm excited. Bro. I'm excited now, bro. Now I'm excited. Rose Namajunas versus Erin Blanchfield. This was originally going to be the main event, but the UFC understands that the Canadians have been through a lot, and they've been through enough already. And they bless us with Moreno versus Albazi. The UFC takes advantage of Canadian fans sometimes because they show up to any event the UFC brings, and they know that sometimes the Canadians are going to buy any UFC event. But we know that the Canadians deserve a good event. They deserve this. They deserve a good 5-round co-main event because sometimes their fighters don't put up the best performances. And the fans of Canada always show up. They always give the best. They always have the best crowd. Sometimes when you put a trash card, it doesn't sell in the States. But this is a great fight. And overall, this is a great card. This fight matters in the division. But glad it isn't the main event. Former strawweight champion Rose Namajunas had a very nice title run at 125. This is technically a number 1 contender fight. She moved up in weight and has looked very good since her move up to 125. Very well-rounded, excellent striker, very good wrestling, solid BJJ, great footwork, deceiving power, and she has wins over Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Tisha Torres, Jessica Andrade, and Weili Zhang. She has very deceiving power as well. A lot of people were tricked into thinking that Tracy was going to beat Rose. She's taking on Erin Blanchfield, who is a nasty grappler. She comes forward, she'll throw punches for a minute and then start working her grappling. She improves every single fight up until her last fight, most recently. Her last fight, people were saying she was the future champ. She averages 6 significant strikes per minute, 2 takedowns per fight. She's tough, but she's coming off that one-sided loss to Manafort. Shout out to Manafort. I chose her. That's my baby right there. Manafort's a beast. She showed her toughness, but it was a perfect encapsulation of who Erin Blanchfield is. She couldn't get the takedowns. Her striking was sloppy and almost a copy of Mackenzie Dern. Insanely tough. No quit, very dangerous on the ground, but dog, her takedowns are complete shit. They're like, her takedown entries are complete garbage. Maybe she has trained wrestling. I recommend she should train wrestling, but Farad is a beast, so there's no shame in losing to Manafort. She has a great chance to win this fight. Honestly, I think Erin Blanchfield has a very good chance to win this fight. She has a clear-cut path to victory, but we know Rose has an even better chance to win this fight. 5 rounds helps Rose even more. If she gets taken down, the next round she can get right back up to her feet. We know Amanda Ribas was able to get her down a little bit, but she was able to win that fight. She's not only the pick, but she's a plus 100 right now. I threw half a unit on her. Unless Blanchfield improved her wrestling drastically, what is she going to do to Rose? An all-timer. I'm the best. Erin Blanchfield is a beast. We saw in Manafort. Shout out to Manafort. I can't wait until she fights again. She looked pretty okay. You know, she hurt Manafort in the 5th round. I've watched that fight like 500 times. That was a pretty good fight. One of my favorite fights from Manafort. Very good 5-round performance from her. And she's from New York. So you know I should be on her side. Rose Namajunas, on the other hand, though, is a plus 100. Plus 105, minus 125 for Erin Blanchfield. I don't know why, bro, but this fight is exciting. I know a lot of people are going to say that this fight's boring, that this fight's trash, but dude, I'm excited for this fight. I think the over 2.5 should hit for this fight, and the over 2.5 should hit for the main event. If you know 6 best bets, I'm just going to put that out there. If you know that, you know that. 5'5" for Rose Namajunas, 5'4" for Erin Blanchfield, 65-inch reach for Rose Namajunas, 68-inch reach for Erin Blanchfield. When I see Rose Namajunas fight, she has some of the best fluidity, best striking, best footwork in the entire women's MMA game. Best fight IQ as well. Sometimes she tends to not be able to get a finish, and a lot of people hate her for that because she just does 5 rounds of absolute, like, boring. Some people say that it's 5 rounds of boringness. I think a girl like Erin Blanchfield has never been in a boring fight. We can say that Erin Blanchfield is the better grappler, and if she gets this fight to the ground, Erin Blanchfield's bread and butter is in her fight game to the ground. We know Rose Thug Namajunas is that girl. She has very undeceiving power. She was known to head kick KO Zhang Weili. And we know, with all this being said, this is going to be a very good fight. I think this is a number 1 contender fight. We know Manafort's the real number 1 contender, but who knows? You never know what happens. Maybe Manafort gets injured. Maybe something happens. I think this is, if anything, it's a number 2 contender fight. I'm going to treat it as a number 1 contender fight. I think Rose Namajunas as a plus 105 is pretty good. I think this is the first time we ever seen her as an underdog in a while. We saw she lost to Manafort, and she was an underdog there. I chose Manafort there. And Manafort has been a girl that I've been able to pick pretty good lately. But we know that we're not picking a Manafort fight. We're picking a fight between Rose Namajunas and Erin Blanchfield. Erin Blanchfield needs to get the takedowns, because if she doesn't, she's going to get worked. I think she's going to get completely pieced up on the feet, and I think a girl like Rose Namajunas might be too fast. We know, though, if Rose Namajunas gets gassed and she gets taken down and she gets put in a position where she doesn't want to strike, we saw her lose to Carla Esparza. She lost the belt there. And since then, she's moved up and has had 2 wins in the flyweight division against Amanda Ribas and Tracy Cortez. I think she should be able to win this fight against Erin Blanchfield. The fact that she's a plus 100 underdog means that a lot of people are very high on Erin Blanchfield, and that's fine. She has very good Kimuras, very good submissions. If she gets this fight to where she wants it, she's most likely going to try to find a submission. And this is probably the best wrestler that Thug Rose Namajunas has ever faced. I'm going to go Rose Namajunas. It's going to be a very close fight, but I'm going to go Thug Rose Namajunas to win this fight by unanimous decision after a hard-fought 25-minute battle. I'm going to go 48-47 Thug Rose, 48-47 Blanchfield, and 48-47 Thug Rose. That's right. I think this fight goes to split decision. I think it's going to be split decision. Thug Rose, 48-47. Split decision, 48-47 Erin Blanchfield. And then split decision, Thug Rose Namajunas. It's going to be a very good fight. I like Erin Blanchfield. If she can win this fight and rep New York, you know I like a girl like Erin Blanchfield. And she's pretty good looking as well. And it makes more sense if this fight goes the distance. I think the over 4.5 should hit. I'm not going to get fancy with it. I'm going to take the over 2.5 for now. I'll let you know, guys, on my 6 best bets on Wednesday. And let's get it. Give me Rose Namajunas to win that fight by 48-47 split decision. This is a good poster. This is a great poster. Main event time. Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. Sorry if I had you guys here forever. Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. Amir lost his last fight. That was a robbery. You know, we know a lot of people are going to say that his last fight was a robbery. It was a year ago. We have to just forget about it. Whoever wins, whoever wins. Brandon Moreno, former world champ, absolute dog, fun to watch, very good, tough chin, non-stop pace, averages about 2 takedowns per fight. And his pace is insane. And also his will to win. His pace and his will to win are by far his best assets. He will continue to come forward, stay busy no matter what is happening. He is coming off back-to-back split decision losses. Most recently, Brandon Royval, who just beat Tatsuro Taira. The problem with that most recent loss, though, is Brandon Moreno looked a little slow and was only throwing 1 punch at a time, not throwing combos like he usually does. And he looked very flat-footed. Amir Albazi is a legit prospect, good grappling, good striking, high pace, light toes, bouncing in and out, long jab. The fact that he is light on his toes allows him to very quickly lower his level, snatch a leg, get a takedown. He isn't just a wrestler. He's looking for control. He isn't just a wrestler who's looking for control. He will take risk, roll for a position, look to snatch things. He's coming off of that questionable win over Kai Kara-France where the takedowns were defended. Sometimes you win a bad decision. Sometimes you lose a bad decision. That's the sport. I get Brandon Moreno being the favorite. He's a dog fighting-wise. He's a former champ. He's been fighting he's been fighting the best for the last 5 years, but he's also coming off of one of his worst performances I've ever seen. I think he looked terrible. He looked flat on his feet, and that didn't look like the Moreno that I know. Moreno has lost his aura minus 1,000 since he lost his belt. I know some guy commented on my video, Max Holloway lost his aura after all that, and it was actually kind of funny. If he shows up flat-footed, Albazi can win this fight. I'm going to pick Albazi. I think he can pull off the upset. If Amir was more active with his more volume, tons of pressure, if he had Moreno's style, I would pick him. But we don't know what Moreno's going to look like. This should be a really fun fight, and the over 2.5 should be great. So I think the over 2.5 hits for the main event and the co-main event. But I also think minus 155 for Brandon Moreno is very good. We saw Abus Magomedov be a minus 150 against Bruno Ferreira. And sometimes that's the best money line that you're ever going to see. A slight favorite money line. We know Amir Albazi at a plus 130. Rightfully so, because he had that questionable decision win over Kai Kara-France, which you can arguably give that fight to Kai Kara-France. You can argue, I don't know what rounds you give Kai Kara-France. I have to rewatch that fight, specifically the first round. But you can make a very good case for Kai Kara-France to win that fight. 31 years old versus 30 years old, but I think Brandon Moreno's a little bit older in fighting years. Mexico versus Iraq. This is a real war. This is what since the beginning of history, these guys have been going at it. 5'7" versus 5'5", 70-inch reach, 268. I'm surprised Brandon Moreno has the longer reach. Amir Albazi is going to be a little bit shorter by like 2 inches. Maybe he'll be more discrepant on the ceremonial weigh-in. And I'll upload my last-minute predictions on that on Friday. But I think this fight's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. And I wouldn't be surprised if this fight goes to split decision as well, considering Amir Albazi's most recent 5-round fight was by split decision. And he also beat Alessandro Costa by KO, which we know Costa fought Steve Erceg and lost, but Costa's a pretty good guy in the flyweight division. If this fight goes the distance, which what I think is, I wouldn't be surprised if this fight is a lot closer and a lot of these rounds are toss-up rounds and we're in another position where we're like, did he get robbed? Because a lot of people considered that Brandon Royval won a split decision robbery over Brandon Moreno. I don't think so. I think Royval clearly won that. But his most recent split decision loss to Alexander Pantoja was a little bit more questionable. He did get dropped in that fight, though, a lot of times. Majority Tapology has Brandon Moreno to win. And if you want to take any of these guys, I recommend just take money line. Just take money line. We don't know how specifically these guys can win. We know this guy, Brandon Moreno, has beaten Deiveson Figueiredo by KO, which is crazy that Deiveson Figueiredo, because what he has done in bantamweight is insane. It just makes Brandon Moreno look like that guy. And he's beating Kai Kara-France by KO liver kick. So we know that this fight is not definitely going to go the distance, but we know that when we have two very high competitive fighters like this, it's most likely going to go over the distance. I'm going to be taking the over 2.5, and I think I'm going to be taking Amir Albazi to win this fight at 17-1-0. I think he should be able to win this fight. Records don't mean shit. We know that when a guy gets tired, when a guy has no takedown defense, when a guy like this is not able to take you down, a guy like Amir Albazi is put in a position where he looks like a shell of his former self. He didn't look that good against Kai Kara-France. Kai Kara-France has good takedown defense, and in my opinion, Kai Kara-France looked great in the striking department. If we see Brandon Moreno versus, if this Brandon Moreno is the version or any version that fought Deiveson Figueiredo, he's gonna win this fight. The only thing is, I think a lot of the wear and tear, I think a lot of the quick, active fights. Yeah, I know it was 8 months ago, but this guy just fights and fights and fights. I've never seen this guy, Brandon Moreno, take a year off. This guy, Moreno, just keeps on fighting, and I think he's a lot older than Amir Albazi in fighting years. I think in the grappling department, I think Amir Albazi should be levels ahead, but we know a guy like Brandon Moreno has very good sweeps, very good scrambles, very good reversals. A guy like Figueiredo, he went for a leg lock out of nowhere, and Brandon Moreno has one of the greatest defenses. I don't think a submission is anywhere near for Albazi, and I think if anybody's going to finish this fight, it's Brandon Moreno to win this fight by KO or maybe submission. I don't think submission is likely for Moreno. I actually think submission is more likely for Albazi. But if there's a finish on either side, it should be Brandon Moreno finishing Albazi. I'm going to go Albazi to win this fight by 48-47 split, 48-47 Moreno, and 48-47 split Amir Albazi. I think this is going to be a very good fight. And the reason why I go split decision is because these guys have went to split decision. His last fight, Kai Kara-France, Brandon Moreno went to split decision his last 2 fights against Brandon Royval and Alexander Pantoja. The issue with flyweight is that there's no specialist. When there's a specialist, sometimes, you get something definitive. Like a guy like Deiveson Figueiredo was a specialist in flyweight, which would make things a little bit more competitive. A guy like Pantoja is a guy who's a little bit more well-rounded than Brandon Moreno, but what answered that definitive split decision was his power and the fact that he was able to drop Moreno. If you have something that's a specialist, if you're a specialist in grappling, if you're a specialist in power, or if you're a specialist in anywhere, I think you should be able to beat a guy like Brandon Moreno. Very low confidence pick because Amir Albazi is a slight underdog, and we know a guy like Brandon Moreno, he just needs one win and he's back in the title contention. Give me Amir Albazi to win this fight by 48-47 split decision. I think it's going to be a very close fight, and I think if anybody is going to win this fight, we all want Brandon Moreno to win this fight, but I think the grappling clinic, maybe Amir Albazi gets tired, but we've seen him win split decisions before, and when this gets closer than it needs to be, we know a guy like Amir Albazi can maybe push later in the 4th and 5th. I can't say anything about Brandon Moreno's cardio, but he did look very flat-footed against Royval, and I've never seen him look like that before. So I'm going to go Amir Albazi, early pick. Don't worry, though. We might do an official pick flip on Friday, but for right now, I'm going to go Amir Albazi, and I might sprinkle him a little bit. Let me know what you guys think of this video, guys. Let me know if you guys like this video. And let me know if you guys are excited for this card for UFC Edmonton in Canada. How'd you guys do on UFC 308? Let me know. And let me know if you guys like this video, guys. And do you guys like the glasses or not? Like, do I look smarter or not? Like, should I do this or not? Or should I just be like this? Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's get it. The best is blessed, baby. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.